back out of the
She
way.
talked to me for an hour and then she talked to Bethany for about 2.
Said that Molly had her and her dog barricaded in her bedroom. Said wouldn't let them out, either one of them, because she was playing her tapes and that dog was chewing up all their stuff.
And that dog, she said that she was, her and Teddy, they were just stayed in that bedroom. And they wouldn't get out.
Said they stayed in it.
They stayed in her bedroom. Said the rest of them didn't like Teddy.
Said she let the dog sleep on Mylon's pillar when he was gone. And said he hated that dog when he come in. Said he'd go over and touch the bed and that dog would jump on him. Said that Mylon didn't know that the dog had been sleeping on his pillow. If he did, he wouldn't have slept on it that night.
She calls her pit poodle.
It's a pit poodle.
Agreed, I had to learn this for her. And we had a program. And I said it in the program. And I'd tell it to my brothers and sisters, and then I told it to my children and their children, and they've all enjoyed it. Gloria Wildman was my teacher, and everybody really liked that program, and it was a little orphan Annie. And I'm going to say it now. Little orphan Annie, she comes to our house to stay. She washes the cups and dishes and she brushes the crumbs away. She shoos the chickens off of the porch and she dusts the hearth that sweeps. She makes the fire and bakes the bread and earns her boarding keep. But all of us other children, when the supper things is done, we sit around the kitchen bar and has the mostest fun. Listen to the witch tales that Annie tells about. And the old gobblers will get you if you don't watch out. Once there was a little boy who would say his prayer. So one night when he went to bed way upstairs, his mama heard him holler and his daddy heard him bawl. They went and turned down the cover and he wasn't there at all. They seeked him up the rafter room and into the cubby hole in the press. They seeked him up the chimney flue and everywhere, I guess. But all they ever found of him was just his pants around and about. But the old gobblers is going to get you if you don't watch out. Once there was a little girl. She always laughed and grinned and made fun of every one of her blood kins. Once when there was company and old folks sitting around, she bought the shop and said she didn't care. But just as she kicked up her heels and started to run and hide, 2 great big old black things stood up by her side. They snapped her through the ceiling before she knew what was about. And the old gobblers will get you if you don't watch out.
Well, back before my mom and daddy was married, my daddy lived up on the old home place and batched up there. And so he bootlegged, sold whiskey. Everybody in the country come by. And he wouldn't let just anybody have his whiskey, but one come by, you know, why, they was all right, why he'd let them have it and it'd make the other people mad, see, the ones that he wouldn't let have it. So they'd come by the house a-hollering and a-singing and a-cutting up. He'd be out there on the road and they wouldn't even speak to him or nothing. So this year, Benson guy, I believe it was Jim Benson, Jimbo Benson or something like that. Anyway, he was riding a mule and he come by and passed Papa on up, didn't speak or nothing. As he come back by, Papa was out there, and as he started by, he jumped and grabbed him by the leg and jerked him off the mule, give him a whooping and told him, said, now the next time you pass by, well, I said, you've noticed there's somebody standing out here. So, well, I reckon that's about it on that. Well, this old man in Scottsboro called him Spitzer Baldus. he was a great big old fat guy, weighed about 300 pounds. So he come out there on that weekend and got him some whiskey. Sat around there and got drunk. Papa, he was cooking supper. He just had one straight chair. It was a homemade chair, old hickory bottom chair. That old man was sitting in his chair and he'd strain it around and get it up on one post and make it pop and crack. Papa would say, "Spitzer, sit down. You're tearing up my chair." Well, he'd sit down and directly while he'd do it again. So Papa would make him sit down. About the third time, Papa got supper on the table. He said, "Now, Spitzer, I told you." He just walked over and grabbed him by the ears and the hair of the head and led him in there to the fireplace. And there we had the old-timey chimney fireplace. And there's a big old rock for the jam that was about a foot and a half wide and about 4 foot long and about a foot thick. And he took him up by the ears and just jogged his head again that jam as far in his head, busted his head all up and got him to bleeding, knocked him out, and he laid down on the floor and he picked him up then, carried him, put him in his bed, and let him stay all night. And he said, next morning my old Spitzer got up and his head all mashed up and skid up. He asked Papa, he said, "What happened, Bill?" Papa says, "Well," says, "you was trying to tear up my chair and I told you not to." He says, "I tried to bust your damn brains out," and said, "I couldn't." Well, I guess that's about the end of that. Well, this old man, he lived in the valley down here and he was a fisherman, old Lum Wilcox. And he had 2 girls, Bernice and Madge. And his wife was dead. And so he drank all the time, stayed drunk, fished, gambled, mean as a snake. Everybody scared of him. So I seen them girls up there at the Arlington store one Saturday morning, and Mark Guffey, one of Kendall's cousins, they'd have a dance up at his house every Saturday night, back up the valley in the bottom over there. So them girls, they wanted to go to, I asked them to go to dance with us, me and Fred Childers. He stayed out here on the mountain there at one of my neighbors, my neighbor's wife's brother. And he was from Oklahoma. So they wanted to go to dance all right, but they said they couldn't go on account the daddy wouldn't let them. Well, I asked them, I said, "About what time does he come in and go to bed? We'll slip over there." They lived on the side of the mountain over there below the Preston schoolhouse in a little old boxed up house, high off of the ground on one side. And they had wooden window shutters. They didn't have glass like we got now. And they slept in the back room. And so I told them, I said, "Well, if we could get y'all, he go to bed, we'd come get you and go up there and dance about a couple of 3 hours and then bring you back, let you get back in bed." He'd always be drunk every Saturday. She said that, they said every night he'd come in, he'd be drunk. When he got to sleep, he couldn't wake him up for it. Well, me and Fred, we decided we'd go a little early, go on down and get us some water out of the spring, that big spring run down the Blanchard Spring. Everybody go by, they had to stop and get them a drink of water. They had dippers hanging on the bushes there. Well, me and him, it was about sundown. We went on down there and we loved around that spring. And the house wasn't but about, I don't guess, 200 yards from that spring. So after it got dusky dark, why, we went on up to where we could see the house, and we seen him come in. He had an old pump shotgun. He carried that thing with him everywhere he went. And he come on, went on in the house, cracks in the walls of the house, you could see they had lamp lights, and they had what they call a mantle up on the wall, you know, the shelves that set their lights on. And you could see them come from in there into the eating table. Well, he come in, they had his supper fixed. And of course, about dark, they went to bed, you know. They were getting ready to, and they're getting ready to go today. So, the old man, he went ahead and ate supper. We watched his light. And we eased on it darker it got, the closer the house would get. Little old bushes, you know, and he had a yard cut out, all about like from here to the first side of the house. That one big, little old bushes like. So there we crawled on that fire. Well, the front porch was high, as high as my head off the ground, and had a big row of steps that went down to the ground. And so we crawled on up there, and Fred, he was in front of me, and I mean, we crawled up the edge of them bushes. We seen him come out of the kitchen with a light and set it up on that shelf. And they told us what he do, says when he gets ready to go to bed, says he'll set that light up there, and says he may sit and smoke and draw a two off his pipe, and says then he'll blow the light out, he go to bed. Well, Fred, he is in a hurry for us to get gone, you know. So he is in front of me. And when he blowed that light out, old Fred jumped up and run to that porch, you know. He was gonna go run to the edge of that porch and then go around to the back where them girls' window was, and open the window, and they don't crawl out the window. Well, here he went. I said, you better wait a little while. He ain't asleep. He said, I will get on up there, and says, we'll have to hurry and get them back. Said, we won't get to be with them long. And I said, I didn't say nothing. I just said still. And here he went, you know. Just as he got to the, right just under the edge of the porch, there at them steps, that old man opened the front door. And he heard him scream. And he just froze right down in under the drip of the house, them steps. That old man come out there and got a hold of the post, you know, and he stood there and tucked his tail out. And boy, you talk about pouring it to him. He peed. Ooh-wee. He'd been drinking that old homebrew. I could smell him from out there where I was at. Fred had on a white shirt and blue navy pants. I mean, nice clothes. That old man just kept pouring. He was afraid to move. Afraid that old man would see him, he'd shoot him. Directly he quit and went back to shut the door. I heard something a come, I could just barely see the bulk of it. There an old Fred on his hands and knees here. Closer he got, the stronger he smelled. Woo-wee! I can just see Mike still smoking. I carried him down there in that branch. We pulled his clothes off of him. All of his clothes, and got him down there in that branch, and I took some sand and washed him. We washed his clothes and tried to get that out of it. And I made him tote his clothes, and he come up the mountain naked. And I made him walk behind me, and I got up smelling. The air was coming the wind was out of the west, kind of, coming up that holler. If you'd ever got in front of me, I'd have went puking. Like to puke anyway. And we come on home, and when he got up on the mountain up there, he put his shirt back on and didn't put his pants on. And had his slippers and his socks, and I mean it run down the back of his legs. That old man, he at least had a half a gallon of stuff in him. And boy, we ain't never went to the dang shit. Spider has his sister. He was staying with her and Jesse Phillips, and Jesse Phillips' wife's brother. And she went to wash him clothes. Why, she asked old Fred what happened to his clothes. in circles and all, you know. And he said he found a mud hole. So that ended the dance. And them girls, they wouldn't hardly speak to me then. From then on, wouldn't know what. Finally, I told them what happened, and I kicked them to death. Then. They said, "Well, why didn't you come around there and tell us? Let us get out there and watch him." Said, "I'd love to see that." You know, as close to that house as I wanted to be. Mom said,
We were in an argument one time.
"Y'all be quiet now."
We couldn't agree on something, and I told Mom that he was insane. He said, "Well, if I am insane, you're sane."
I'll get you.
So that,
But
I called you sane and
one of us
insane.
got to calling us sane and insane. I can't remember what it was. We were arguing about in Brick at Boaz's. Me and Wanda and Damone and Mama, I believe.
Yeah.
And I was over working in a brick pile, and I kept feeling something crawling around up my pants leg. Well, if I could tell it was, you know, wasn't just itching, and it had moved around in the seat of my pants. And I kept feeling around, I couldn't feel anything. So I went down, there's an old barn down behind this grocery store, right in the middle of Boaz, main town Boaz. I went down to that barn, I pulled my pants down, I couldn't see anything. Well, I went back up there and I could still feel it crawling, it was just going all over me. And finally, I just stuck my hand down my pants. I felt it crawl up in around my pocket. I stuck my hand down my pants and I felt of a tail. And I pulled it up and there was a tail sticking out about an inch long, and I thought it was a snake. I like had a heart attack. And I just slung that thing as hard as I could. It was a lizard about 3 inches long. That thing had been in my pants for about 2 hours.
We was just up there at Leander's and they all got into it up there, and Gordon Dennis, he was there showing out. Bert and Frank stuck a piece of iron or something out there and knocked him in the head with it. And then they cut their,
Okay.
they cut his coat off, you know, they thought they'd killed him. They got in there and was cutting George's coat up, you know, gonna let on like it. Gordon cut him with a knife. He used a butcher knife to cut his coat up.
That's cute.
That's it.
And I was running out, and I got the swing and I fell down. It skipped my nose. I'm holding a picture. What are you doing?
When we first were married, we were staying in what we call the old haunted house. We'd been married about, I guess about 3 or 4 weeks. And I was in the kitchen, I was cooking supper. And Anthony came in the kitchen where I was at, and he had been in there in the bathroom, and he had shaved his mustache partly off. He looked just like Hitler. Just had one little part right here. And he came in there and I went, "Hi, Hitler!" And he was going to lay it on there, and I had to make him go in there and shave the rest of it off.
Now you tell about the refrigerator door.
Oh my goodness.
You don't want to remember that, huh?
I was about 15 years old while me and my uncle Joe Wooten. I had another uncle. He was about, what, 75, 80 years old? Son at the time.
Yeah.
And was all the time pulling pranks on him. And son was about, what, 4 foot, 6,
Like that.
4.5 feet high, real short. And we, of course, we'd always go to church over here to this Holiness Church. And that's where we'd go there to see the girls and everything. Well, son, he'd go to church. And he had an old 51.
To see the girls.
Yeah, he'd see the girls too. But he would be the first one there. And he'd pull right up in front of the steps and the double doors so that he could stay in there and keep an eye on his car, keep us kids, people, from messing with it. Well, we thought how funny it would be, you know. for him to break the meeting up because he'd like to hear them sing, but he didn't want to stay there when they started having an altar call. So when they started their sad songs and started trying to go get people to come to the altar and everything, well, son, he'd jump up and leave every time. So we got out there, and of course we'd been blasting down here in the quarry and everything, you know, Papa had, and so we had some old dynamite wire. So we sneaked there and we opened the door. We unscrewed that bulb, you know, when you open the door. Well, the light had come on, so we unscrewed that where it wouldn't come on and you couldn't see it. Well, son, he'd come out and he'd jump in his car and he'd crank it up in a hurry, you know, and try to get that back out as quick as he could. Didn't want nobody, you know, hearing him or nothing. And he was so short until you meet him coming down the road. As far as you could see him, say 200 or 300 yards, it didn't look like nobody was driving the car. You had to get real close so you could see the top of his head, and he had 2 or 3 old pillows under him then. Well, we'd taken that old rim where the horn is, you know, around old 51 Chevrolets. Well, we took this wire and we tied it and run it down around the steering column to his clutch. Of course, old straight shift, so you know he had to mash that clutch to crank his car, or you know, to get it in gear, to get out of there. So we're sitting up there watching him. So he comes out and he gets in his car. He sits there a second, you know, I guess getting his switch key ready, and then it starts, mashing that clutch. He go beep. Beep, 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 beep. And all these people in there are shouting, you know, and a hollering, and man, people in the altar, and here's a preacher, and all the ladies are praying for him, you know, I mean, they had it a-going. And here's son out there on that clutch, beep, 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 beep. Pour on. Why, he'd stop a minute, you know. Then he'd go beep, 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 and then he'd quit. Well, here's somebody at the back, they'd come out and they'd get out on the steps and they'd look around. Well, son, it done embarrassed him, see, so he had done slid. When somebody come out there to look, he'd slide down where they couldn't see it. And they couldn't, every time they come to the door to look, well, he'd quit. So then they couldn't find nobody. So then, as soon as they go back inside, beep, 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 on that old horn, you know, and then old Joe out there just about to die laughing. So finally, here comes somebody else. Finally, a couple of them come out there looking around. They couldn't see son in that car because he'd done trying to hide. And they go back in. He sat there for, I know, 45 minutes blowing that horn. Beep, 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 beep. He broke the meeting up. Finally, here come the preacher. They went and got a flashlight. That's how they found him. And sitting up there, here was son, beep, 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 like that. And they walked out there and they got shining a light in them cars. See who it was? Shining there, son down like looking up. All right, they died. So me and Joe, we came on back up here to Mom and Papa's. So here comes son about an hour later. He come up there, he says, you know, if I ever find out who done that to my car, I'll kill him. You know, we never did tell him who done that to that car. Pull another trick on son. He'd spend Saturday night up here after he opened it. He'd go to church and then he'd come in and stay up there. Well, we said, we're going to fix him up. Well, you know, back in, son, dude, and all of them, they didn't know what toothpaste was or anything like that, but, you know, we had toothpaste, and we had bought us a tube of this Crest, just as green as it could be. Well, everybody would leave their shoes at the fireplace, because they had to keep it, you know, keep their shoes warm to get up in the morning. Why, it wouldn't be so cold. Everybody went to bed, of course, all the lights was off, you know, and we tell, you know, which shoes it were. So we get that old Crest toothpaste, you know, we squeeze the toes, you know, down in there to pull that old Crest. Well, here we all get up first thing to see son get up and put his shoes on. Son gets up, puts his shoes on, you know, and nothing, wanders around through the house and is sitting there, you know, well, what in the world's wrong? He should be coming out of them suckers here pretty soon, you know. So we finally decided that he'd got up and found it before we did and cleaned his shoes out. Well, here we all jump in there, jump in, old Bill's shoes got, after Bill jumped in his shoes, he hollered, woo, boy, he come out, and what had happened, Son and Billy's shoes looked almost just alike, and it kind of dark in there, just fireplace lights all we had. Well, we had squirted Billy's shoes full. Your old Bill come out, and your son and everybody there, his feet just agreeing. And Billy's the one that helped us put the paste in the shoes. I mean, he had done it to his own shoes. So I was about, what, Daddy, about 11, 12 years old?
About 12.
About 12 years old, while me and Daddy, we worked on the lake all the time. And I would wade the river to hold the posts. Back then we didn't have a barge like they have now. So one of us would wade the river and hold the post while the other would get up there and drive the post on top. Well, our shoes and everything with old muscles and everything in the river, you talk about stinking. Your socks and shoes, now it was something. Well, Mom and Daddy would not let me come in the house with my shoes and socks on. I'd pull them off out on the front porch, go out there on the hydrant and wash my feet off, you know, before I could get in the house. Well, Aunt Willie and my grandmother, they hated each other with a purple passion. They could not spend one day together without getting in a fuss. And I mean, one trying to run the other one off. Aunt Willie was there at night. And Grandma, yeah, Aunt Willie held him. Anyway, Grandma, she hated that because Aunt Willie had to sleep in the bed with her. And I says, I'm going to have me some fun. So I go out there before bedtime and I sneak one of them old socks in. You'd have to hold it out like this. Smelt like a rotten fish, is what it smelled like. And a little worse. So I got it and I pulled the cover back, you know, and put it under Aunt Willie's pillow. Put the cover back, you know. And I was sleeping on a little old cot. I had to sleep on a little cot on the other side of the room. A little half bed. Well, got ready to go to bed. I go to bed first, you know. Here comes Aunt Willie and Grandma. They get in the bed, turn the light off. They in there in bed a few minutes. Grandma says, what in the world is that a stinking? Aunt Willie, what, is that you? Thought maybe she hadn't took a bath or something, you know. No, it ain't me, but I can't stand it. What is that? A few minutes, they get up and they turn the light on and they'd look around. They asked me, says, Wallace, have you got one of your old shoes, socks, something in the house? I said, no, they out on the front porch. Well, they look under everything. They couldn't find no manure or nothing on their shoes or nothing. You know, thought maybe had something on their feet when they come in. Well, they cut the light off, and when they get out of bed, they couldn't smell it. You know, really that bad, because it's still up under their pillow. They get back to bed, and here they both groan and moan. Oh, Lord, it's that old outdoor toilet down there stinking. Well, they got up and they closed the windows. This is in the summertime, and it was hot weather, too. They got up and they closed all the windows. Well, when they done that, it made it worse. And, man, by then, they had rolled and tumbled and had that stink all over the bed. And here they are. Oh, if I know what that was, I'd kill somebody. Finally, I made about an hour of that. And that was the funniest thing you would ever hear them two old women there going, one would go, one would go, finally they couldn't stand it no more. And they got up. And by then, they had wiggled around and turned their pillows over around so much a lot of old sockets laying right between their noses. I tell you what, you talk about two mad old women. I mean, they didn't want to fight each other. They just wanted to kill me. You had to get up and change their sheet and the pillowcases and everything. And
Start over.
This is a letter written by my great-grandmother on September the 16th, 1918, to her son, Wooten. And it was addressed at Detention Number 6, Company 3, Camp McClellan. And this says, "Son, I will write you a few lines. This leaves us all as well as common, and I hope you are the same. Son, we have wrote you 3 letters and have got 3 from you. Son, I sure do want to see you. Son, be sure and live for the Lord and pray for me. I pray for you every time I pray. Son, we have got 1,234 pounds of cotton picked. Son, write and tell us what you are doing. And if you are well, I sure do want to see you. It seems like it has been a month since I seen you. Son, your pa is gone to the upper end of the mountain tonight. Leander and Feely said they would write to you tomorrow. We have been picking cotton today. Son, be sure and write